The alien woman walked through the wide hall of the space station. Her silver cloak flowing behind her, she had been told to attend an important council meeting, one that could decide the fate of her people. The station was massive, with endless doors and metal corridors, each one looking the same. The lights above flickered softly, giving the place a cold and empty feeling. Her footsteps echoed, and she moved faster, not wanting to appear late. But she had never been in this part of the station before, and her heart grew uneasy as she noticed the signs on the walls were written in human language, not in her own. She paused for a moment, trying to remember the directions she had been given. Then she saw a large steel door at the end of the corridor. Her mind told her it must be the entrance to the council chamber. Without hesitation, she pressed the button and stepped inside. The sound of the door closing behind her made her chest tighten. At first, she thought she had made it to the right place. But then she realized the air smelled different. It was not the clean, perfumed air of the council halls. Instead, it was sharp with fuel and metal. The room was wide, shadows dancing across the floor as bright lights hung above. And in the center, there was a ship, a human ship. Its silver body gleamed, wings folded like a bird ready to strike. Strange glowing lines ran along its surface. As if the ship itself was alive, her eyes widened. She had never been this close to a human fighter before. Her people spoke of them with fear, whispering that these machines were built for destruction. She wanted to step back, to leave before someone found her here. But her legs refused to move. Then she heard it, the sound of footsteps. Slow and steady, her heart pounded. She looked around, searching for a place to hide. But the hangar was open and bare from behind the ship. A man appeared, tall and strong. His dark flight suit clung to his body, patches of old battle stitched across it. His face was hard, sharp lines cut by scars that told stories of survival. He stopped when he saw her, surprise flashing in his eyes. For a long moment neither spoke. The silence was heavy. Broken only by the hum of the ship's power core, she felt her throat go dry. She knew she had walked through the wrong door, and now she was trapped. The human tilted his head slightly, his eyes scanning her. He did not reach for a weapon, but his stance showed he was ready if she moved too quickly. His voice came low and calm. "Are you lost?" She froze at the sound. His tone was not mocking, not cruel. It was strange, almost gentle. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. What could she say? That she had wandered in by mistake? That she had no idea where she was? Her people and humans were not supposed to cross paths like this. Every law warned against it, yet here she was, staring into his eyes, feeling something she could not explain. Her chest rose and fell as she tried to speak. Finally, she whispered, "I was looking for the council chamber." Her voice shook. His lips curved into the faintest smile, not cruel, but knowing. "Then you have taken a very wrong turn," he replied. His words should have made her feel foolish, but instead they filled her with an odd warmth. She could not understand why her fear did not push her to run. Something about the way he looked at her held her still. Suspense wrapped around her like a net. Her mind screamed danger, but her heart whispered stay. She realized that crossing that single door had already changed everything. The human pilot stood still for a moment, the light from the ship glowing across his face. His eyes were sharp, not the cold steel eyes of a soldier, but the watchful eyes of someone who had lived through storms. The alien woman felt his gaze pressing against her, like he could see more than just her body. As if he could look into her soul, she expected him to shout, to call the guards, to push her out. But he did not. Instead, he stepped away from the shadows, and the sound of his boots echoed across the hangar. He stopped just close enough that she could see the faint scar that ran from his cheek down to his jaw, a reminder of battles fought long before this meeting. He crossed his arms, tilting his head slightly. "You are far from where you belong," he said. His voice was calm, steady, but there was a weight behind it. She swallowed hard, trying to hold her ground. Her people had always spoken of humans as wild, dangerous, hard to trust. But standing before him, she saw no rage, no hatred. There was something else, curiosity. The alien woman's fingers curled around the edge of her cloak. Her thoughts racing, she told herself she had to leave. But her feet did not move. It was as if an invisible chain tied her to the ground. I made a mistake, she whispered. Her voice was softer than she wanted, almost a confession. His eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger. But as if her words interested him, he took another slow step forward. The hum of the fighter ship filling the silence. You do not look like someone who makes mistakes, he said. The words caught her off guard, her chest tightened, and she tried to think of an answer. But none came. His tone was not accusing, it was almost testing, like he was searching for something in her. She found herself staring at the way he carried himself, not stiff like a soldier in parade, but relaxed, like someone who had already faced death and returned alive. The silence stretched, broken only by the soft hum of machines around them. She wanted to look away, but his eyes held hers, and it was as if time slowed. He finally asked, "What do they call you?" Her breath caught. No human had ever asked her name before. Her people always spoke of humans as enemies, as predators to be avoided. She should have refused. She should have kept her identity hidden, yet against her own will. Her lips parted and she whispered her name. The sound of it seemed to change the air between them. The pilot gave a slow nod, repeating her name softly under his breath. Like he was testing it, he did not mock it, he did not twist it. He carried it carefully, as if it meant something. She felt heat rise in her chest, a strange feeling she did not want to admit. He looked at her cloak, then back into her eyes. "If the council finds you here, they will not forgive you," he said. His tone was not cruel, it was almost protective. "So why are you still standing in front of me?" Her heart pounded at his words. She did not know how to answer. She should have turned, run back through the door, and forgotten this moment. But something about him pulled at her. She could not explain it, only that leaving felt harder than staying. "Maybe I'm waiting for you to tell me to go," she said without thinking. The second the words escaped, she wished she could take them back. His lips curved in the faintest smile again, but his eyes stayed serious. "I do not tell people where to go," he replied. His voice was low, but it carried power. "You choose for yourself." The words cut deep into her, and she realized he was not speaking only about this room. He was speaking of something greater, choices that could shape more than just this night. The weight of his presence grew heavier, and she wondered if fate had guided her through that wrong door. In that moment, the alien woman understood that the human pilot was not just another soldier, not just another enemy. He was something else, something her people had never warned her about. He was dangerous in a different way, not with weapons, but with words that made her question everything she thought she knew. The alien woman's eyes moved across the hangar, her breath shallow. The walls were covered in strange markings, human numbers glowing softly on screens. She realized this place was not just a room to store ships. It was something hidden, something not meant for anyone outside the human fleet. The fighter in front of her hummed with quiet power, its body smooth like flowing water, but its wings sharp like blades, ready to cut through the stars. She had seen ships before, but this one was different. It seemed alive, as if it was watching her the same way the pilot was. The human stepped closer to the craft, running his hand along its silver frame, the soft lights reflected in his eyes. "This is not for your people to see," he said. His voice carried no anger, only truth. She felt her chest tighten. She should have turned away, but her curiosity rooted her in place. The energy from the ship seemed to call to her. Whispering secrets she could not understand, she whispered, "It feels alive." Her words slipped out before she could stop them. The pilot's head turned slightly, surprise flickering across his face. "Most would only see metal and fuel," he replied. His tone was thoughtful, as if her answer had touched something unexpected. He studied her for a moment longer, then nodded toward the fighter. "Do you want to know how it feels to sit inside?" Her heart leapt, fear and wonder clashing within her. She should have said no, she should have run, but instead, she found herself nodding. Her feet moved without her command. Taking her closer to the ship, her fingers brushed against its cool surface, and a strange shiver ran through her. The pilot pressed a small panel, and the cockpit opened with a hiss of air. A soft glow lit the inside, blue lights wrapping around the seat like a heartbeat. The alien woman hesitated. Her people would call this betrayal, stepping into a human weapon, but her curiosity was stronger than her fear. Slowly she climbed in, the seat adjusting itself to her shape, fitting her body as if it had been waiting for her. Her hands hovered above the controls, glowing symbols she could not read, yet somehow she felt like she could understand them. The pilot climbed in beside her, his presence close. His movements were calm, practiced, but his eyes stayed on her, watching every reaction. "Breathe," he said softly. "The ship listens." She closed her eyes for a moment, inhaling deeply, and when she opened them, the cockpit lights shifted, pulsing with her rhythm. Her chest tightened with shock. "The ship was responding to her," she whispered. "It knows I'm here." The pilot gave a faint smile. "It does." The hangar doors above them groaned as they slowly opened. Stars spilled in, endless and bright. The air inside the cockpit grew warmer, the hum of the engine rising like a living heartbeat. The alien woman gripped the seat as the fighter lifted. Her cloak pressed against her shoulders as gravity shifted. She gasped, the world tilting. The human's hands moved across the controls with effortless grace. Guiding the ship upward, the hangar became smaller below them until it vanished. And the stars opened wide before her. The alien woman's eyes filled with awe. She had seen the stars from windows, from safe council chambers, but never like this. Never from the seat of a ship that cut through space like a blade. The ship responded to every movement, every touch, as if her own body was part of it. Her fear melted into wonder. For the first time in her life, she felt free. Her people's rules, the council's warnings, the walls of duty, they all seemed far away, replaced by the silent beauty of endless stars. But deep inside, she knew this was dangerous. Every second she stayed here, she was stepping further into a path she could never turn back from. And yet, when the human pilot turned his head toward her, the stars reflecting in his eyes, she knew she could not walk away. She had crossed the wrong door, but it had led her into a secret she could not resist. The fighter ship burst from the hangar into open space, the stars stretching wide around them. The alien woman pressed her hands against the glowing frame of the cockpit, her heart racing as the blackness outside seemed to swallow them whole. She had never felt such speed, such power. The station behind them shrank into a distant speck, and only silence filled the void. Yet inside, the hum of the ship sounded steady, like a heartbeat guiding them through the dark. The human pilot's hands moved with calm precision, his fingers brushing controls that responded instantly. The ship tilted, gliding smoothly across the starfield. "Relax," he said softly. "The ship will follow your breath." She tried to steady herself, inhaling slow, exhaling slow. To her shock, the lights inside shifted with her rhythm, pulsing faintly like they were alive. She gasped, her voice trembling. "It listens to me." He nodded, his eyes still fixed on the dark horizon. "Yes, it does." Her body shook with both fear and wonder. The vastness of space outside felt endless. Yet here inside this machine she felt connected, as though she was part of something greater. For a brief moment she forgot the laws, forgot the danger, and only felt the thrill of freedom. The stars seemed close enough to touch, and her chest filled with something she had never known before. But the silence did not last. A sharp sound echoed through the cockpit, a high-pitched alarm. Her body stiffened as red symbols flashed across the panels. "What is happening?" she whispered. The human pilot's expression grew focused, his jaw tightening. "We are being watched," he said. His fingers tapped quickly, shifting their course. Drones. She turned her head and saw them, small glowing machines darting through the darkness, their red eyes burning bright. They moved in a pack, sharp like predators. Circling in the distance, the alien woman's pulse quickened. "They are from my people," she whispered, fear rising in her chest. "They will destroy us both." The pilot's lips pressed into a thin line. His voice was steady, almost calm. "Not if I keep us ahead." The ship jerked suddenly, diving through a cluster of stars. Light streaked across her vision as the craft spun and twisted, dodging beams of red fire that cut the space behind them. She clutched the seat, her breath caught in her throat. Every move he made was sharp, exact. He flew not like a soldier trained by rules, but like a hunter guided by instinct. The drones chased closer, their engines screaming through the void. She felt terror crawl up her spine. "We cannot outrun them," she cried. But he did not slow. His eyes were locked forward. His hands a blur over the glowing controls. "You have never seen a human fly," he said. His words struck her like a blade. The ship twisted, spun sideways, and shot through a narrow gap between two fragments of broken satellites. The drones scattered, but one clipped the metal edge and exploded in fire. Her body trembled, half in fear, half in awe. She stared at him, realizing this was why humans were feared. Not only for their machines, but for the way they became one with them. Reckless yet unstoppable, the ship steadied again. But the warning lights still flashed. More drones were coming, their red signals flooding the dark. The alien woman's hand brushed against the glowing panel. And suddenly the cockpit reacted. Lights flared, energy surged. The pilot glanced at her, surprise in his eyes. "You are linked," he muttered. She stared back in shock. "What does that mean?" His voice dropped low, almost reverent. "It means this ship has chosen you." Her chest tightened as the truth sank in. She had stepped into a place she was never meant to see, touched a machine she was never meant to know, and now, space itself seemed to bind her to this human pilot and his ship. Ahead, the dark stretched wider, filled with both danger and wonder. And she realized the real flight had only just begun. The silence of space shattered as the first wave of drones fired. Beams of red light cutting across the dark. The alien woman flinched. Her breath caught in her chest as the ship shook from the shockwave. The human pilot did not hesitate. His hands moved with speed and skill, guiding the fighter into a spiral that carried them out of the direct line of fire. Stars blurred into streaks around them, but the swarm was not far behind. Their glowing red eyes burned through the black. She gripped the sides of her seat, her voice trembling. "They will not stop. They are programmed to destroy intruders." The human pilot's jaw tightened, but his tone stayed calm. "Then we do not let them catch us." His eyes locked on the swarm as if every movement of theirs was already known to him. The fighter tilted sharply, sliding into the shadow of an asteroid field. The rocks drifted silently, huge and jagged, a deadly maze waiting to crush any mistake. Her heart pounded as the ship slipped between the stones. The sound of scraping metal rang in her ears even though nothing touched them. The pilot's focus was absolute, his eyes sharp, his body steady. She realized then that he was not fighting the drones alone. He was fighting the void itself, mastering the chaos of space like it was an extension of his own body. One wrong move would mean death, yet he looked calm, almost alive in the thrill of danger. The drones followed, smaller and faster. Slipping through the gaps, their red beams lit up the rocks, explosions shaking the shadows around them. A flash of fire burst behind the ship as one of the drones hit a stone and shattered into fragments. Her breath caught, but the swarm closed tighter, each one adapting, learning, growing more precise. The alien woman's hand brushed the glowing console, and suddenly the lights under her fingers shifted. The ship reacted, tilting slightly before the pilot even touched the controls. His eyes flicked toward her, shock flickering across his scarred face. "It is responding to you again," he muttered. His words carried weight, as though this was more dangerous than the swarm outside. Fear battled with wonder inside her. "I do not know what to do," she whispered. Her hand trembled, but the ship pulsed beneath her touch like it was breathing. The pilot's voice lowered, calm but urgent. "Then trust it. Do not think, only feel." The words wrapped around her, and for a moment she let go of her fear. She spread her fingers across the glowing surface, and the ship jolted, weaving suddenly through the asteroid maze with sharper movements. The human glanced at her, his lips tightening, not with anger, but with respect. Together they guided the craft, human instinct and alien connection binding the ship in ways neither had expected. The swarm pressed closer, their engines howling through the void. One beam grazed the wing, sparks flying, but the ship held steady. Another drone dove too low and smashed into stone. A second fireball lighting the dark. Her chest burned with both terror and excitement. She had never known such intensity, such closeness to death, yet she was not frozen anymore. She was part of this flight, part of him, part of the machine. For the first time she felt her fear turn into fire. Not the fire of destruction, but the fire of survival. The swarm still pushed forward, more of them than she could count. But the fighter no longer felt weak. It felt alive. almost as if the stars themselves moved aside for it. The human's eyes met hers for a brief second, and she saw no fear there, only certainty. "They think they are hunting us," he said in a low voice. "But they have no idea what they are chasing." The alien woman felt the truth in his words. Her people had always feared humans for their violence, their chaos, but here in the dark, she saw something different. Not just destruction, but power tied to will. Survival carved into every choice, and now that power was hers too, shared through the living bond of the ship. The swarm closed in one last time, beams flashing, but the fighter surged forward with a roar. Splitting through the void like lightning, the drones scattered. Broken by speed they could not match, she gasped. Her body pressed back into the seat as the stars bent into streaks once again. The pursuit was not over, but for the first time she felt they were not the hunted. They were becoming the hunters. The fighter ship drifted into the cover of a glowing nebula, clouds of blue and purple gas folding around them like curtains of light. The swarm of drones vanished behind the haze, their signals fading until only silence remained. The alien woman pressed her back into the seat, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. For the first time since entering the wrong door, she felt the weight of her actions pressing down on her. The human pilot slowed the ship, his hands steady on the controls. His eyes scanned the shifting colors outside, but his voice was calm. "We are safe, for now," he said. The hum of the ship grew softer, like it too was resting. She turned her face toward him, her voice trembling. "Safe is not true. They will search for me, and when they find me, they will know I was here with you." The words hung heavy in the air, and she knew they were more dangerous than any weapon. Her people's law was clear. No alien was to enter human territory, and no human was to touch alien technology. To them, what she had just done was not a mistake. It was betrayal. She closed her eyes, seeing the council's cold stares, the punishment they would give, the shame on her family. Fear gnawed at her heart. The human's voice broke the silence, low and steady. "You have a choice." She looked at him, confusion in her eyes. "What choice?" He leaned back in his seat, his gaze fixed on her as if weighing her soul. "You can walk away, pretend this never happened, return to your council, bow your head, and follow their rules." He paused, his tone sharpening. "Or you can accept that you have already stepped beyond their chains. You can choose freedom, even if it costs you everything." His words struck deep. Her throat tightened, and she could not reply. For a moment she hated him, hated the way he spoke as if her entire life could be measured in one decision. But another part of her, the part still burning from the chase, whispered that he was right. She had felt alive in the stars, alive in a way she never had before. The bond with the ship, the way it pulsed under her touch, the way his eyes met hers in the middle of chaos, it all felt too real to deny. Her voice cracked when she finally spoke. "If I stay, they will call me a traitor." The human pilot did not look away. "If you leave, you will betray yourself." The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. Her hands shook, pressing against the glowing frame of the cockpit. She saw her reflection in the glass, an alien woman caught between duty and desire, fear and freedom. Her people had raised her to believe that humans were nothing but danger. Yet sitting here she realized danger was not always destruction. Sometimes danger was temptation, the temptation to follow something forbidden, to follow a fire that could consume her life. And now she felt that fire in her chest. It was not only the ship, it was him. The human pilot who looked at her, not as an enemy, not as a stranger, but as something else, something she could not name. The nebula outside shimmered, waves of color rippling across the dark. Her voice came as a whisper. "Why me?" The pilot's expression softened for the first time. His scarred face seemed less hard, less guarded. "Because you walked through the wrong door," he said. "And sometimes the wrong door leads to the right path." Her breath caught. She turned her gaze forward, staring into the endless stars ahead. She knew the council would never forgive. She knew her life would never be the same. But deep inside, her heart had already chosen. She could not return to what she was before. She would rather burn in the fire of this new path than live forever in the cold chains of her people's laws. The human pilot said nothing more, but the way his eyes lingered on her told her he understood. The choice was not easy, but it was hers. And in the silence of the nebula, the alien woman made it, not with words, but with the steady beat of her heart. The nebula faded behind them as the fighter returned to the hidden hangar. The doors sealed shut, leaving only the low hum of the ship and the heavy silence between them. The alien woman's hands rested on her lap, but she could still feel the pulse of the machine under her skin. It was as if some part of her had merged with it, and leaving the seat now felt like tearing away a piece of herself. The cockpit opened with a hiss. Cold air rushing in, she stepped out slowly, her cloak brushing against the smooth metal floor. Her legs felt weak, but her heart beat strong, stronger than it ever had before. The human pilot climbed out after her, his presence steady. His eyes followed her carefully, not commanding, not demanding, only watching, as if waiting for her to speak first. She turned toward the heavy steel door she had entered from, the same wrong door that had led her here. For a moment, she thought about what waited beyond it, the council chambers, the cold eyes of her people, the chains of law that would drag her down. If she stepped through, she could pretend none of this had happened. She could erase the memory of the stars, the fire of the chase, the pull of the bond. But her heart ached at the thought. Her eyes moved back to the human pilot. His face was carved by scars, marked by battles, but his gaze held no cruelty, only something she had never known before. He gave a small nod as though he already knew her answer. "Once you leave this place, you cannot return," he said quietly. "But if you stay, you may lose everything you once believed in." The words cut deep. But they were not a warning. They were the truth. The alien woman closed her eyes, the images of her people flashing in her mind. The promises she had made, the expectations they held. Yet stronger than all of that was the memory of the ship's hum, the way it had listened to her, the way the stars had opened wide before her eyes. She realized that the bond she had felt was not only with the machine, but with him, the human who had flown beside her. When she opened her eyes, she stepped forward, not toward the door, but toward him. Her voice trembled, but her words were clear. "I cannot return." The human pilot's expression did not change, but his eyes softened, and for the first time, she thought she saw relief. He did not reach for her. He did not move closer. But the space between them shifted, heavy with something unseen. The hangar was quiet, but in that silence, she felt it, the bond, invisible yet unbreakable. She had crossed one wrong door, but it had led her to a truth stronger than duty. The truth that sometimes fate was not written by councils or laws, but by choices made in the silence of stars. The human turned, his hand brushing the side of the fighter. "Then you should prepare," he said. His voice was steady, but she sensed the weight beneath it. "Because your people will come, and they will not forgive." Her heart clenched, but she did not look away. "Let them come," she whispered. "I have already chosen, for the first time." A faint smile touched his lips, not mocking, not cruel, but real. It was a smile of recognition, of respect. The unseen bond between them tightened, not with chains, but with something stronger than steel. The alien woman stood in the hangar, staring at the wrong door that had changed her life. She knew the path ahead would be dangerous, filled with battles, filled with fire. But she also knew she would never walk it alone. The bond had already been made, unseen yet undeniable, and it would guide her into whatever waited in the dark.